It's Paris, 1803. The American minister, Robert Livingston, he walks into a meeting with the French foreign minister, Charles Maurice de Talleyrand, expecting to negotiate to buy a single port city. Instead, Talleyrand turns to him and asks him a question that will change the map of this continent forever. He said, "What will you give us for the whole?" The whole, not just the city of New Orleans, not just the mouth of the Mississippi River, all of it. Over 800,000 square miles of territory stretching from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains. Robert Livingston was stunned. He had no authority to make such a deal. He had no instructions for it. No one in the history of diplomacy had been handed an offer like that. But he didn't say no. In 1803, the United States was 27 years old. We had grown from 13 colonies into 17 states, and our western border was the Mississippi River. Beyond that lay a vast, half-charted territory that had been passed between France and Spain like a hot potato for over 40 years. Thomas Jefferson, he sat in the president's house 2 years into his first term, and he understood one thing clearly, that whoever controlled the port city of New Orleans controlled the future of America. Half a continent of American farmers in Ohio and Kentucky and Tennessee and the western reaches, they needed that port to get their crops to market. If a foreign power were to ever close the Mississippi, our growth would choke. So Jefferson sent Robert Livingston to Paris with instructions to buy the port city of New Orleans. He sent his future successor, James Monroe, to help finalize the deal, and he authorized them to spend up to $10 million. What they came home with was the entire heart of a continent for $15 million. Napoleon Bonaparte, he needed the money. His grand vision of a French empire in the Americas had collapsed on the island of Saint-Domingue, which is the modern-day Haiti, where a slave revolt led by Toussaint Louverture had defeated his armies. Yellow fever finished what the rebels began, and Napoleon was about to be at war with Britain again, a war that he needed cash to fight. After the deal was struck, Napoleon is reported to have said, "This accession of territory affirms forever the power of the United States, and I have just given England a maritime rival that will sooner or later humble her pride." He was right. He just didn't know how right he was. I'm Dan McKnight. I'm chairman and founder of Bring Our Troops Home and a citizen soldier from the great state of Idaho. And when you serve in the United States military, you serve a country with a geography that demands a particular kind of patriotism. From Fort Leavenworth in Kansas to Fort Seal in Oklahoma, from the Black Hills of South Dakota and the bayous of Louisiana, American soldiers train and live and raise families on ground that 200 years ago was a question mark on a French map. I've stood on that ground. Many of us have. So have hundreds of thousands of other soldiers before me. Every one of those installations sits in territory that doubled our country with the stroke of a pen on a day in 1803. We don't think about it as often enough, but the Louisiana Purchase is the reason that Lewis and Clark could be sent west to find a route to the Pacific. It's the reason that Mark Twain could write of Huckleberry Finn rafting down the Mississippi. It's the reason the American breadbasket exists. It's the reason that all or part of 15 states fly the Stars and Stripes today. I'm talking about Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and parts of Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas, all part of that purchase. But here's the part that gets glossed over. Thomas Jefferson was a strict constructionist. He believed the federal government held only those powers specifically granted to it by the Constitution. It's kind of refreshing, isn't it? And the Constitution said nothing about purchasing foreign territory from a French emperor. Jefferson, he wrestled with this. He drafted a constitutional amendment. He worried that he was acting, in his own words, beyond the Constitution. And in the end, he submitted the treaty to the Senate anyway. He believed the opportunity was too great to lose, to get caught behind procedural scruples. He trusted that the American people, through their representatives, would ratify what he had done. And the Senate, they approved the treaty by a vote of 24-7. Was it constitutional? Scholars still debate it today. But this, too, is part of American exceptionalism, that even the men who wrote the rules sometimes had to act boldly and trust the people to ratify what they had done. And we should be honest about another thing. This land wasn't empty. It was home to dozens of Native American nations. The story of how the United States moved into this territory includes broken treaties and forced removals that we are duty-bound to tell and talk about truthfully. American exceptionalism does not mean American perfection. It means a nation honest enough to face its failures and free enough to keep reaching towards its ideals. 223 years later, the Louisiana Purchase is the ground beneath the feet of more than 70 million Americans. It's the wheat fields of Kansas. It's the oil fields of Oklahoma. It's the Mississippi Delta and the Missouri River. It's the prairie and the plains and the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. It's the gamble of a French emperor and the audacity of a Virginia farmer who, in his entire life, would never travel further west than his own Shenandoah Valley. It is, above all, proof that the American story has always grown bigger than its founders ever thought that it would. We started as 13 colonies, hugging the Atlantic. By the grace of God and the boldness of our forebears, we became a continent. As we approach our 250th anniversary, look at the map. See how much of this country was bought in a single afternoon in Paris by men who knew that they were exceeding their instructions and trusted their countrymen to ratify their boldness. That is the American way. That's the legacy that we inherit. And liberty, it is our legacy. We should be worthy of it. God bless America and happy 250th.